For the most meaningful practice of the high holidays, you don't need a rabbi, you don't need a cantor, you don't need a synagogue, you don't need to read Hebrew or to know even one prayer. All you need is yourself, some courage, honesty, and time. It's called cheshbon hanefesh. Literally, it means like counting of the soul. But it's a practice in which we pause to take stock of the past year. We think of our relationships. We think about our life. Are we really living a life of purpose? We go deep as we can go. And then we come up with an action plan of how to make the next year a little bit better, a little bit more loving, more meaningful. This year, I had the opportunity to do this practice, but not for the past year, but for the past 25 years. I've been ordained as a rabbi on May 2000, 25 years ago. And in honor of this event, my rabbinical school, the Hebrew Union College, invited my class, all the rabbis and the cantors who were ordained with me, to come to New York and to receive an honorary doctorate. I have to admit I was cynical about it at first. But I went, and I'm happy I did. The reason I didn't write about it, I didn't give a sermon about it, is that I realized I needed much more time to reflect on the past 25 years. The second I got there, the second I met my classmates, first class we had together, first prayer, first meal, I couldn't stop thinking and thinking and thinking. What is the meaning of all that? And I'm going to share some of my thoughts with you. It's not going to be a sociological account of the Jews in the past 25 years. It's personal. It's my own. I think I want to share. So the first thing I want to share with you is that the size of the current class of rabbis and cantors who were ordained was half the size of my class. Nobody wants to be a rabbi anymore. It reminded me what used to be a joke of a young person who goes to his mother and said, "Mom, I decided I want to be a rabbi." "A rabbi," she said, "what kind of a job it is for a young, bright Jewish boy?" Used to be a joke. Today it's a reality. But that's not the subject of my sermon. But I needed you to know, because it's not only in the Reform movement, it's worse in the conservative and Orthodox. Young people don't want to choose this path. The second thought I had, I don't think that I ever publicly shared with you how I even chose rabbinical school. You know, going to rabbinical school, at least in the Reform movement, conservative and modern Orthodox, takes a lot of time and effort. First of all, you have to graduate college before, and then you have to commit for 5 years of rabbinical school. And in my class, many of my classmates were already older, second career. Many of us had second degrees, even had a PhD from Princeton. So it's a major investment. Why I chose to do it? In my early 20s, I thought that I wanted to be a political scientist. That was my destination. So I had my first degree, I had my master's degree in political science, and even to understand how it works in practice, in real life, I spent a year working at the Knesset, the Israeli parliament. That killed it completely. I realized, no, politics is no way, not for me. Now, part of my work at the Knesset was working with the heads of the reform and conservative movements in Israel, because as some of you probably know, Israel does not recognize these two movements. I'm not a rabbi in Israel. A conservative rabbi is not a rabbi in Israel. We cannot do weddings, we cannot do anything. Even some modern Orthodox rabbis are not considered to be rabbis in Israel. Okay, so we did all this work trying to make a change. We failed in the early 90s. We fail today too. But during all these meetings and strategizing, more and more I felt like I don't belong on the side of the politicians. I want to be part of these rabbis, reform and conservative. And that's what brought me first to New York, because at that time the Reform movement did not have a full-time program, rabbinical program in Israel. Now they have it. Back then you had to choose New York, LA, or Cincinnati. New York, of course. I mean, in this place, I can say of course and never of course. So I chose to be a rabbi because I wanted to run away from politics. And here is the first observation I'm sharing with you. The new religion of America in the last 25 years is partisan politics. Politics, my friends, took the place of religion in America. Not because of me personally, but that's what happened. What do people need from religion? And many scholars believe that all of us, on some level, are religious entities. Homo religiosi, we called it. We have a need for the transcendence, for something more than the ordinary. We have a need to be part of a community. We have a need for morality, for somebody to tell us what's wrong, what's right. We have it inside. That's the way we were created. And it used to be the church and the synagogue and the mosque. It used to be the house of worship. You go there for community. That's where your community was. You were there to hear a sermon, to learn about morality, to learn the stories of our people that gave you a direction. We learned about Passover. Wow, so you got it from your religion. You got your identity. I'm Jewish, I'm Christian, that's who I am. And this is not completely gone, but mostly gone. Because as people became less affiliated with churches, and I'll use the word church because this is the big term here, all these needs still existed. They just needed to channel them somewhere else. So if not in your religious community, well, we found a new community, our political party. And our political parties now offer us everything that the religion used to offer. Identity. I'm a MAGA conservative. I'm a progressive. This is my identity. What used to be before, I'm Jewish, I'm Methodist. It's my political identity that defines me. You definitely found a community. Your party is your community. You create around you or you join around you to the people who believe exactly what you believe. These are your people now. Not so much your synagogue or church people. This is it. You found your prophets. Obama, Trump. You learn what they're right. You analyze it. You write commentary. And with the 24-hour TV, Fox News, MSNBC, you get around-the-clock sermons that affirm your beliefs and tell you how awful the other side is. Exactly what religion used to do. The platforms of your parties are the new Bible. My favorite part of every service, I think this is the most magical moment, at least for me, is when we close our eyes and everyone together chants Shema Israel. And today, you go to political rallies and you chant, lock her up, Black Lives Matter. This is the reality. So I thought that I'm going to be a religious leader to make a difference, and realized that, well, politics took the place of religion. And here is the biggest problem about it. Every religion has a built-in mechanism of grace, of forgiveness, not politics. It has the fervor, the passion of religion without the heart. What are we doing today? We say, yes, we mess up, we make mistakes, but please, we ask for forgiveness, we want to fix things. No, not in modern politics. We have heretics now. If a Republican says that we need more gun control, he's a rhino. You know what a rhino is? Republican in name only, excommunicated. If a Democrat says, we do have a major problem with immigration and we need more restrictions in the border, you are a dino. Democrat in name only, out. This is where we live today. I don't know how to change it. I know it will change. Again, we always need this identity. We need meaning, needing to belong. And I believe that we'll go back to our religious homes and communities. But now I want to tell you where we are. That is my observation. The next observation is that few issues that used to be pillars of Jewish identity are not pillars anymore. The first one is the Holocaust. 25 years ago, the Holocaust was at the foundations of most Jewish people's identity. And it was a message and it was a tool to reduce anti-Semitism. See, the Holocaust in the first 20 years in America and as well as in Israel was something that people didn't talk about. It just was too painful. Nobody wanted to deal with it. It started in the 1961, with the trial of Eichmann. Eichmann was one of the leaders of the SS, the architect, or one of the main architects of the Holocaust. And they broadcast his trial that took place in Israel. For the first time, the Holocaust survivors had a microphone, had a way to speak, to tell, to share their horrors of the Shoah with the world. And that's when we started. And then a short time later, the 67-year war, the 6 Days War. There was a fear initially that Israel will be destroyed, a second Holocaust. And then instead of Shoah, we had the redemption. Israel won. Israel defeated all the enemies. So the Holocaust was so important. And then in the 80s and the 90s, we built Holocaust museums everywhere in the country. We had Holocaust curriculum in so many places. Television programs, movies, books. So when I started rabbinical school still, the Holocaust was it. And we expected that our children will be Jewish because of the Holocaust. Not anymore. I know some of you are angry about it, but the Holocaust, my friends, turn from a memory to history. And it doesn't have the same power. Please don't get me wrong. Holocaust is crucial for Jews as well as non-Jews. But this is not going to build Jewish identity. It should be a great platform to teach many lessons from the Holocaust, about the Holocaust. And, as we see, you don't need me for that, the more we require mandatory Holocaust teaching, and more than 30 states in the country have mandatory Holocaust curriculum, the more anti-Semitism we see. So it worked for a while because we told the world, look at the Holocaust. That's what happens when anti-Semitism goes out of control. But it stopped working for many reasons, and now we see people weaponize the Holocaust against us. So it's we now, Israel, normally, who do what the Nazis used to do. So this pillar of the Holocaust is no longer a pillar. It's a fact, in my opinion. The second one is Israel, the state of Israel. Again, it was 1967, the Six-Day War. That's when America really fell in love with Israel. It was the new kind of a Jew. It was not the nebbishy, weak Jew who was always a victim. It was the strong, powerful new Jew who can defeat all the enemies. They loved Israel. Israel could do no wrong. But Israel matured like all countries do. And more young Jews realize, Israel has some issues. There is no unconditional support of Israel anymore. Some of the things that Israel does goes against our core values. Oh, Israel is still a pillar, but not as strong as it was. And it could go either way, as we saw after October 7th. Because on October 7th, almost all the Jews, even those who hardly felt any Jewish flame in their heart, rounded around Israel. We never had such support. But then about 6 months later, it turned around. And don't think of yourself if you're over 40. Because still people over 40 support Israel almost unconditionally. People under 40, and not only Democrats, Republicans as well, support this less and less and less. We support Israel, and I would like to mention that a few days from now is October 7th. October 7th is Sukkot. Sukkot begins in the evening before October 6th. So we'll have a meaningful program here. We'll start at the Sukkah. We'll have a wonderful lecture. I encourage you to come, because that's what we do. Remember, we learn. But I wanted you to know that Israel does not have the same strength as an unbreakable pillar for Jewish community. And I want to share a few other things. I see them positive, others may not. In the last 25 years, we have many more non-Jews as part of our communities. Some of them are married to Jewish people. Some of them just love Jewish communities and want to be members of. They like the teaching, the community, whatever it is. I remember 25 years ago when we talked about interfaith couple, it was a problem to deal with. Now it's an opportunity. Now it's not just that we accept people, we embrace, we love them, we thank them for supporting us and enriching us. See, I talk to many grandmothers who like to tell me about their grandchildren. So in the past it was, my granddaughter is going to get married. He's a great guy, but but he's not Jewish. Almost nobody mentions it anymore. Today, he's a great guy, but his family is MAGA Republicans. Or voted for Hillary. I'm not kidding. This is the identity now. But the fact that we have many people who were not born Jewish, whether they converted or not, changed that, and for the better. And I see myself. I used to read only books that were written by Jewish scholars. Now I realize, wow, there are so many brilliant Christian writers out there who know the Bible not less than I do. Wow, what a world opened up. 25 years ago, I strongly believed that real deep Judaism comes only from the brain. You have to be a super intellectual to learn everything you can about Judaism. That's the path, the intellectual path. And when people use the word spirituality, I thought about them as, well, very Jewish light, like New Agey ideas. Well, about 10 years ago, I spent 10 days in a silent retreat learning to meditate. Yeah, we changed. Because I learned that many things that we didn't do, like meditation, like chanting, like nigunim, these wordless melodies, like musa, are all part of Jewish traditions. I just happened to grow up in a place that thought, oh, the only important thing is learning. Everything else is Nourishkeit, is nonsense. But I learned it's not. And the person who put it the best, there was a rabbi by the name of Zalman Shlomi Schechter, who used to say that Judaism is like a huge house with many rooms, only that many of these rooms are locked. And it's time for us to start unlocking them. Meditation has always been a Jewish practice, but we sort of forgot. Chanting, of course. We chant from the Torah. We don't read the Torah. So we started to bring back a lot of these spiritual practices that I have to admit I used to ridicule and now I admire, because realize it's not only your head that functions Jewishly, it's your heart, is your soul. It's not only what you hear and what you learn, it's what you do. And when you meditate, you do. It's a practice. And I'm looking at the time, because now we have technology here, as you know, hundreds of our friends watch us from the home, which is wonderful. It's another blessed change. When I graduated or ordained from rabbinical school, my parents bought me a gift, a CD-ROM. Remember these? It cost them $450, which was a real fortune to them. And on that CD-ROM, I had a large collection of Jewish texts, only in Hebrew, of course, but that was not a big problem. I loved it. I did so much with it. Today, all you need is a cell phone, and you have an access to about 100 times more text that I had on my CD-ROM. I have a beautiful library in my office. Almost all the books I have on my phone without buying. It's free. There is a website. It's one of my personal tzedakah projects. It's called Sefaria. It's close to the word Sifriya in Hebrew, which means library. It has almost all the Jewish texts you can imagine, 100% free. And now most of them are even in English because people translated. You can listen to a Jewish class from anywhere you want. Quite often I go running and listen to a class from, I don't know, from a different place, but another scholar. The access or democratization of Jewish knowledge is unprecedented. I may be talking myself out of being a rabbi because I'm telling you don't really need one. But you have access to everything you need and more. And there are so many creative, ingenious, super smart people who contribute to the new kind of knowledge, and especially women. And I'm saying it not just to be nice to 51% of you here, but this is the truth, because for all these years, Judaism was more or less closed to women. They couldn't go to rabbinical school to study Talmud. You know, here and there we hear a story. But now, especially in the past 3 decades, maybe even most of the material is written by women, because some of them were not allowed in rabbinical school. So they went and got their PhD in Jewish studies from the best universities and discovered an ocean of knowledge, because no man can understand any text from a female perspective. So just think about how rich Judaism became now, if you're just willing to study. So my friend, this is only the beginning of my reflections. The bad news is only the politics. I want the center of community, of morality, of identity to go back to houses of worship. Help me. What I told you about the Holocaust, it's a fact. How many of you really mourn on Tisha B'Av about the destruction of the temple from 2,000 years ago? It was horrible, but it's history. We'll keep learning and commemorating the Holocaust, but it won't be a pillar. And it won't work for the young people. For them, it's not to remember. They need more meaning. It's not what they did to us in the past, it's what are we doing now. And all the rest, technology, new people who join us, all these opportunities are great news. I don't know what's going to happen 25 years from now. Not likely I'll be standing here giving the Yom Kippur sermon. But I think that Judaism will be better. I'm not saying bigger in terms of people, but much deeper, much richer in terms of ideas, of practices. But no matter what, we'll be here. Because you know what each generation used to say? We are the last generation of Jews. For 4,000 years we used to say that. I'm not saying that. I think that we are on a pivot point, that we just can do things better. Shana Tova and Gmar Chatima Tova.